one of the outstanding speakers in the country, a great lady, a longtime friend. She just is able to hit the nail on the head in ways that understand. Please welcome Ann Coulter.
Thank you. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. I don't know you, but I came to hear you two. Thank you for that magnificent report a few weeks ago, and I had no idea how young you were. I read your stuff all the time. So you're the ones I came to hear. Immigration, there's no point in talking about any other issue. There's no more important issue than immigration. And as Phyllis Schlafly's report has demonstrated, we lose everything if we lose immigration. One of my friends was emailing me yesterday about some debate on Facebook with some snotty liberals about should we kick Texas out of the country because there's so many conservative voters. And it was, you know, silly liberals being silly. But the point is, that is what immigration will do. That is what Marco Rubio's bill will do. We will lose 25 million voters. It is the equivalent of losing that many members of Congress, that many senators, and never winning another presidential election. And yet, what's strange about the immigration debate, I can't think of another issue where you cannot hear the other side in the media. And you can hear a pro-life view. Back during the Iraq War, you heard both pro and con. In fact, even on conservative networks, you did. There is no issue that is as important and as much interest to the American people that is simply hidden by the media. I think they correctly suspect that the American people may not be with them. But as a consequence, I mean, people can only know what they hear on TV or read in newspapers, and there are any number of things that, you know, you just talk to people and people don't know big obvious facts about immigration. For example, I think someone may have mentioned this. Did you know that Marco Rubio's amnesty bill would triple legal immigration? Triple it. Did you know that the children covered under the DREAM Act include 17-year-olds? So by now, some of them, we're talking about giving amnesty to, the children. They're 30 years old. Did you know that a majority of immigrants do not care about amnesty? The Democrats know. In Obama's ads to Hispanic language radio and TV stations, he never talks about amnesty. His ads were saying Obamacare is going to give you free health care. They know Hispanics don't care. And in fact, I was just thinking, you know how, you know, it's a big line with the Democrats that Republicans only care about the fetus until it's born, and meaning that we don't support, you know, a raft of social service workers, I guess. But the point is, how about flipping that on them? Democrats only care about immigrants until they can vote. Because bringing in a successive wave of another 1.2 million immigrants a year, who is that hurting? It's hurting the last round of immigrants. It's hurting our low-wage workers. You know, my whole life I've heard Republicans, you know, are racist, don't like black people, don't care about black people. I never believed it until I read Marco Rubio's amnesty bill. And to follow up on the guest worker point that's just being made, I intend to write about this at some point in the future. I think you've written a fair bit about the H-1B. H-1B, that's it, right? I always get these numbers confused. This is nothing but indentured servitude. Mark Zuckerberg brings in people to run the copy machine, and they are not the best and the brightest. They aren't even the ones taking the top jobs. They're the low-level employees. Ha-ha, but the advantage of H-1B is they can't leave the company that brought them in. They can't bargain for higher wages. They are stuck. It's indentured servitude. Oh, because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have enough money. But we can't have a rational discussion about immigration because liberals will invoke, and Republicans will invoke the magical word, racist, this is racist. As Phyllis Schlafly's report demonstrates, this has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. Immigrants from whatever country have always found a comfortable home in the Democratic Party, in part because they're all coming from more liberal countries, though not so much anymore as we become more liberal. But we used to be a beacon of freedom in the world, any place they were coming from. I mean, look at New Hampshire. Just think about immigration in our own country. Oddly enough, you think people are saying, I'm leaving all that behind, I'm coming to America. No, they go to new places and bring their New York values with them. When they move from New York to Florida, from Boston to New Hampshire, they move for the low taxes and then they vote for high taxes. It's the same thing with immigrants from other countries. We can win them over eventually, but as Louis Schlafly's report demonstrates, even with the early 20th century immigrants, a lot of Italians and Irish and Jews, it took us 50 years and Ronald Reagan to get them to flip. We don't have time. We're doing the Sorcerer's Apprentice thing, trying to mop up the floor while the buckets are still being dumped. No, we gotta cut off the flow. We need a moratorium. We'll have time to win them over, and we will win over some immigrants, but it takes time. I also want to mention on the racist point, when the 1965 bill was being enacted, all of its sponsors swore up and down, Teddy Kennedy, LBJ, that Emanuel Seller in the House, two conservative patriotic organizations were testifying that this is going to change America. This will make it a different country. Never has a country, by government policy, simply changed its ethnicity. I mean, can you imagine Japan? Oh, let's become Mexican. Never has there been a change like this, and as a consequence, knowing this was going to happen, Teddy Kennedy, Seller, LBJ all swore this bill will not change the ethnicity of America. So they're apparently allowed to talk about ethnicity and the impact of an immigration bill when they're lying. But if we point out, using the exact, wait, that was a lie. Oh, no, that's out of bounds, that's racist. It's a very strange disjointedness. And to follow on this point, this isn't natural. You get, especially on places like my favorite network for humor is MSNBC. And you get, they're sneering and Republicans just have to get used to it. The country is changing. The country is changing. No, this isn't a natural process. It's like you're being raped and the guy is telling you, sorry, my penis is in you, but nothing you can do about it. No, you're raping me!
I thought that was Obamacare.
Changing the country by force. There is nothing natural about it.
You warn us before you do a line like that next time. Get the recorders out.
No. I also think you can never remind people enough. Democrats have not been winning people through their dazzling arguments. They have changed the voters. And in the 2012 election, if the country had not changed, by force, on purpose, by people trying to harm this country, i.e. Teddy Kennedy, Romney would have won a larger landslide against Obama than Reagan won against Carter in 1980. Because he won 4 points more of the white vote. Back in 1980, the country was nearly 90% white. Now, not all of voting age, but now it's about 62% white. Now, Hispanics vote much lower. That's the main group of immigrants. That's why I mentioned Hispanics. And that is how the country is being changed. It's not as if, even on their own terms, we're not getting equal numbers from every country in the world, which would have been strange enough, because that isn't who populated America for the first 400 years. That would be strange enough, but by their terms, we're not getting equal numbers from every country on earth. No, 30% comes from one country, Mexico. And the vast majority come from another 10 countries, mostly Latin American and Asian countries. It is virtually impossible to get in if you're just applying from the countries that did populate this country for the first several hundred years. And also, I think it's important to notice that earlier immigrants went home. If they couldn't make it here in America, about 30% of them went home. Nobody goes home now. Now, if you can't make it, you go on welfare, thus the high welfare rates. So even beyond not searching for the best and the brightest the world over, once we get them here, the Democrats get them on welfare because they want more bodies, they want the votes. Why Democrats or Republicans are going along with this is the most baffling question, other than, they're busy with other things. They certainly can't turn on Fox News and hear the truth. You won't even hear about immigration. I mean, it's like their buddies in the media are promising the Republicans, don't worry, we won't write about this, and if we do, it will only be to call you brave. Don't worry. I mean, it is with the Republicans, it's like invasion of the bystanders. You don't know who you can trust. People who are so good on other issues. They're, it's so good on taxes. And yet, wants to wreck the country and set it up so it's California and a Republican will never, ever win again. Yeah, I think the Republicans just have to say to their big business friends, and I wonder if it is, I keep blaming the congressmen and senators themselves who want jobs with lobbyists when they leave, and who are the lobbyists working for the big businesses. Those are the only two groups that benefit. Well, I guess the immigrants themselves benefit because they're accessing lots of government services. The Democrats benefit because we're very soon approaching a point where Republicans will never win another election. Stop it now, there's still time. And business benefits because they get cheap labor. Cheaper and cheaper and cheaper labor. And is it that Boehner wants to go work for a lobbyist himself, or is it that all these guys are surrounded by congressional staff? And they want the job lobbying after, right? I suspect a lot of it is the staff, and Republicans just don't hear the truth. But if Republicans are themselves going to lie constantly, there's no hope for the country. I keep seeing, and I hate to say it, I love Fox News. I don't think it's intentional, but even they keep repeating this lying BS poll about a majority of Republicans, 75%, support a path to legalization. No, every time you look at these polls, I wrote a column about it, 6 months ago. I was suspicious of that for obvious reasons, so I went and I looked up what the language of the poll is, and you can check yourselves every time. You are only given two options on the poll. One is, we arrest illegal aliens at gunpoint, round them up, put them on buses, and deport them at a cost of billions of dollars to the American taxpayer, or do we put them on a path to legalization where they will be required to learn English and pay back taxes, of which there are no back taxes. Back taxes means we give them money. Earn income tax credit. Oh, you didn't make enough. Here's a check. Well, no politician in America is proposing to deport them. It is not only secure the border, but most importantly, and this is why Mitt Romney was my candidate and may be again, enforce E-Verify. You dry up the jobs. Nobody rounded them up to get them here. Nobody's going to have to round them up to get them home. They will go home, I assume, the same way they came. And I never understood what was so offensive about the phrase self-deportation. But, liberals could turn the phrase apple pie into something. That's a gaffe. That's a gaffe. We're not rounding them up. We're just going to make it difficult for them to get jobs. And I would suggest, contra the governor of New Jersey and many others, maybe we shouldn't be giving people who break our laws and come here and are a burden on the taxpayers. Maybe we shouldn't be giving them in-state tuition, is my thoughts. And driver's licenses. It is the strangest thing. In no other case do Republicans support, forget forgiving law-breaking, rewarding law-breaking. And I think we all just have to learn to say over and over again, Republicans are under no obligation to forgive lawbreaking just because the Democrats need another 30 million voters. I know it's very important for them to get their 30 million voters, but we have no obligation any more than, it's tough for the children. I assume it's tough for the children to have a father who's any kind of criminal. Right? Yeah. Tougher to pay college tuition and so on and so forth. But really, the only two issues are immigration and I guess Obamacare, but every Republican voted against Obamacare, so we're fine on that. So that only leaves immigration. And I think it's really time for the Republicans, for the American people to say, you screw us on immigration. We'll vote one more time for the Republicans. You screw us on immigration and we are done. At that point, there's no point to anything except organizing the death squads. Thank you, I'm dying to take your questions, so I
Hey, this is Peter. Hi, my name is Peter Revio. I just want to give you a rundown of what's going to happen going on from here. At noon, we'll be serving lunch across